So like watching teams like Vitality, Falcons, and even Spirit to an extent play it. Tier 1 train, especially T sides to me, is pretty bland. And this is a problem mostly with watching Vitality in multiple grand finals where they are just running the same top A main split 9 out of the 10 gun rounds that they have because they get so many gun rounds because they win so much.
Hmm.
It's pretty boring. It's kind of just lame that it seems like the map is already being boiled down by the best teams to just be a scrim on the outer yard every single round with a couple flashes and smokes, and they don't even necessarily heavily vary the smokes. Like it's kind of some constellation of 3 smokes that they throw, and it's almost just like, do you throw the sandwich smoke this time? Um, but it's always just that icon one, or some people call it camera, and then the right side bomb train Z1. And for but the reason I say specifically tier 1 is that seeing teams like NIP come into PGL Astana and run some more B heavy plays, they try to work with Ivy a little bit more. I do think that there's room for teams to try a little bit more on this map, but I also do think that Ivy is just so toast on this. So that's kind of part of the ugly point here. I feel like Ivy is just such a low value position from the games that I'm watching. At the highest level, it almost feels like watching the tier 1 team specifically. Ivy is practically cosmetic as a position. It's almost just something that you have to barely flirt with to keep both sides honest, so you don't just get pushed and flanked from that spot. But in terms of actually breaching the A bomb site from Ivy, I find it to be pretty bad. For example, even today, NIP tried using it against Spirit, and in the most basic angle ever, Shiro just dodged a flash because it's so hard to get really great pop flashes through Ivy to blind people that are holding the other angle, because there's all these like nooks and crannies. Like you could be in the left, you could be like close left, you could be left behind one of the walls. You could be like, there's like 4 angles to the right that you can tuck in, all of which dodge different flashes. So I just feel like, I guess it's a general train point, but I am seeing a little bit more versatility or variety that is in some of the up and coming teams on the map. But I still feel like train right now, it leaves a lot to be desired for how the best teams in the world play it.
Yeah, I mean, trust Snappy to come in and take a map and kind of change the approach and maybe make people think about different ways they can actually play on the T side. He's done it before, he'll do it again. But realistically, you're right. There are a couple resources missing to the T side that you feel like they just need to make the map interesting to watch, realistically. Like the amount of A plays we see, partially it was at the early days of Train, the reason there were so many A plays was just because it was so OP. And it was so difficult for CTs to hold on to the yard until we saw the sort of like very aggressive 4-man outside. We need to take a main meta, at which point the map sort of fell back into the sort of CT-sidedness. It's not anywhere near as heavy as it could have been in the past, but a more CT-sided sort of meta overall in terms of the balance. But that has been because Ivy is just useless. Like as a T side, I can't really do as much out of Ivy. I can't use it to pressure the other bomb sites. I struggle to get players out of it. I feel like every time a player has a highlight, it involves at least 2 free kills on players coming through Ivy because they're just very awkward angles for an entry. So no, there is something really off about Train right now. And I feel like maybe blocking off some of the places the CTs can play, or creating some sort of opening somewhere that a good flashbang just magically can open that whole round, open that whole area up in a round, is critical, because it's not that great to watch. That's the problem right now. It's a map that has a lot of potential, and we saw in the past was one of the greatest. When top teams played Train back in the day, absolutely loved the map. As soon as you touched it yourself in matchmaking, you realized this requires way too much coordination and communication to ever play with randoms, especially randoms who don't speak the language. Like that just was impossible. But at the highest level, they made you believe, because they had so many great matches. We've yet to see that spark return in Train. It currently looks almost as bad in tier 1 play as it does in a really low-level puggy sort of level. So I'm very frustrated watching it as well. That is correct. Something has to change about Train to give the T-side some options, and then we can talk about, well, a more macro meta point about CT sides needing an extra resource in terms of utility, but that's a problem we'll get to eventually. For now, we do need to make Train less shit. Quite simple.
By the way, I definitely agree on that last point. If in CSGO, you're totally right. You'd watch like a fucking insane like VP Na'Vi train game. Yeah, this is the shit.
Yeah.
Then you'd boot up, and if you went to matchmaking, you would be just wishing death upon yourself and every teammate like 5 rounds in. Because what you realise
playing
was
that CT outer yard,
you just can't do any of the things you're watching in the game, because one of the best things about the map back then was, because if you think about it, there's a million like sight lines on the map, and when people can attack, like they can essentially attack. Every site has like 3 or 4 entrances. Like you can just get swarmed and coordinated on in a way that, like, if you don't all com properly and play off each other, and outside you can always tell the teams who actually like I know he's covering my back, so I can watch this angle safely, or I can watch the Ivy because he's going to guard me from the mid. If you don't have that, the map's unplayable. And unfortunately, this is why I actually think this is a really good way to contrast the difference between CSGO train and CS2 train. CSGO train, in my opinion, was really good at the highest possible level. I always used to say to people, if you look at the layout of the map, it probably should have been CT sided, but all the best teams could make it T-sided because they were so unbelievable tactically, util-wise, how they would like battle for the ladder room. If you think in CS2, the bomber here is, as you two have basically pointed out, the highest level games aren't very good. Like, you actually take the teams which, like Vitality, Spirit Mouse, Falcons, who if you drop them on almost any other map, it's going to be a great game. You drop them on this and it's kind of like a scoffed CSDM with like just a million 3v3s and 2v2s. And it's like, look, I'll give you this. It can be exciting, but it's not high-level CS. And in fact, when you watch it even the things that Vitality's doing to get their edge is just stuff like take a cheeky push-up on CT, some shit like that, or do a flank on someone. They're not doing anything genius on T-side that's winning the game. No one's making a playbook of anyone's T-side on this map right now. And I do think that's also a problem, because I always thought the old version, this is actually sadly why I think it got removed, because it just became a map people couldn't play matchmaking. I always thought the actual utility usage in CSGO train was really good. It was like very layered how you birded up. You would like fight for areas of the map outside as you go inside. And this one, it's like you throw your util and then you just go in on a timing. Like, I'm not a fan of that personally. So no, I'm with you. I have. Here's the thing. I'd still prefer it over Vertigo. I do think Vertigo never ever could sort of like find any substance at the bottom of it. But I do think this map needs to be tweaked. Something about the identity of it isn't there yet. It just isn't there yet.
Yeah, I think they just... I would want the angles smoothed out around Ivy, or Ivy to just give better sightlines. And I also would want the way... You can defend Ivy in too many good ways for it to be valuable. I would probably... If I don't need to even touch... Pop, like, the whole pop area is a little bit weird for me right now, but I'll leave it just because I wouldn't want to change too many things at once. I would probably just lightly shrink the opening for T main so that it's not as valuable or as easy to just rush out a yard. And then I would also make it better for the T's to get Ivy by just smoothing some of the edges around. So the CTs can't just be in like 5 different cubbies that you have to hard clear for you to feel comfortable swinging into to flank A as a whole. So yeah, but I also wrote this point so that it's just the tier 1 teams, because it does seem like there's a little bit more variety for tier 2 teams. Like, they are trying to mess with B a little bit more. Like, Snappy, for example, was able to successfully pull off a pretty good flank against Virtus Pro yesterday, or, well, the first day of the Asana event. In the last round of the half, he called for, like, what kind of looked like the average pop T-main split, but then he went B with the guys that he sent out, and he himself even ran through his own Z smoke so that he could flank the people that are trying to rotate. So like he's adding some new dimensions to it and kind of playing on the expectations that people have right now, but it still didn't involve Ivy. So that to me is a flaw.
See more cool, funny, interesting clips based on topics from my content? Well, subscribe to this channel then, or, be a pleb and don't.